Hello, everyone. It's Aaron Christensen with Horror 101 with Dr. AC, and welcome back to Scare-A-Thon 2024, benefiting the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project. If you'd like to know more about the Scare-A-Thon and the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project, aka WRRAP, go right here to that video, and you can find out all the information. You can also go to the donation link, which is right in the description for this video. And there'll also be a link to that video, the information video, at the end of this one. So hang in there. All things will be provided. Today, we're going to be talking about a special favorite, Burial Ground from 1981, aka The Nights of Terror. It's an Italian zombie movie that was inspired by the success of Lucio Fulci's Zombie, aka Zombie 2, which was itself inspired by the success of George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. So lots and lots of zombie movies were coming out around this time out in Italy. Pretty much every director worth their salt was doing some variation on the zombie theme at this time because zombies were making money. And Andrea Bianchi is the director of Burial Ground. And Burial Ground borrows a lot of elements from Lucio Fulci's Zombie, but also strikes out on some pretty unconventional territory of its own, which is what makes it so darn memorable. The setup is nothing special. We have some idle rich that are off to hang out at a villa for the weekend for some frolicking. We have some couples, and one of the women has brought her young son. And I say son with big old air quotes around it because said child is played by 20 or 25-year-old, depending on the sources, actor Peter Bark. And he's supposed to be playing somewhere around, I'm guessing, like 8 to 10. And he is dubbed by a voice actor who is clearly an adult who is putting on a kid's voice, like, oh, hi, mommy. Oh, help me. So that already kind of leans things into wackadoo land. But then it's revealed that he has quite the lech for his mom. He wants to suckle at her breast like he did when he was an infant. And he also wants to run his hand up her leg and, end up in between her legs. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But again, it makes things just a little wild and a little weird, and that's what we're looking for. This is also a time in Italy when censorship had been lifted, and so we were seeing a lot of people taking chances, seeing what they can get away with. The more outrageous, the better. And so we saw a lot of gore. We saw a lot of sex mixed in. There's some extensive nudity throughout this film. There's also some pretty great gore. No surprise there because the effects are handled by Gino De Rossi and Rosario Prestipino, both of whom have extensive makeup credits. And it should be noted that Gino De Rossi is not to be confused with Gianetto De Rossi, even though both of them were working at the same time in Italy, and both of them have very similar names. They both worked with Fulci at different times. So it's easy to get them confused, but this is Gino De Rossi. And he provides some very Fulci-looking zombies. We have a lot of kind of clay on their faces and maggots crawling around. They're actually some pretty wicked-looking zombies, which is not to say they look realistic, but they are pretty outrageous and fun to look at. There's a lot of clay sculpting going on here. And that is something that makes them unique, is that they all have their own look about them. They don't look like clones of one another. Each one is very specific in the way that Zombie had its graveyard zombie with the worms in the eyes. These all have a very distinctive look about them, and it's great credit to Gino De Rossi and Rosario Prestipino for coming up with those designs, especially on a low budget. This is clearly a low-budget effort. We don't have any big names in the cast. There's no Richard Johnson or Ian McCulloch. The biggest name is probably Mariangela Giordani, who plays Evelyn, who is the mother of Michael, played by Peter Bark. And outside of Peter Bark, she's probably the most memorable performance as well. Now, there's not a ton of plot here, but we do find out that these are Etruscan zombies, and these zombies know how to use tools. They're adept at breaking down doors. So these are kind of a progression of zombies in that they already have kind of a higher intellect, I guess. Andrea Bianchi is probably best known, other than this film, for his giallo Strip Nude for Your Killer. And he uses a lot of zooms and handheld camera work to keep the urgency and the energy up. There are times when it feels just a little crazy, but that's kind of in keeping with the nightmare logic of the scenario itself. As I mentioned, there's not a ton of plot going on. In fact, the majority of the movie, after we have our kind of sexy preludes, is pretty much watching these zombies slowly wander after our victims. I remember seeing this film very late night at one of the 24-hour marathons at the Music Box. And I kept kind of nodding off and waking up and nodding off and waking up. And every time I would nod off and wake up, there was a zombie slowly moving towards somebody and somebody was screaming. And I was like, wow, it's the same thing throughout the entire movie. And I'm not wrong. When I watched it with a little more sleep, there's a lot of screaming. There's a lot of slow moving zombies, but there are some really great payoffs, heads getting smashed apart, guts getting ripped out, really vibrant red to the innards. There's even a callback to Lucio Fulci's zombie moment with Olga Carlotto, where the splinter goes into her eye. Here we have a pane of glass that goes into somebody's eye. So Bianchi is borrowing from the best, but he's also innovating because the climax of this film contains a scene that I won't spoil for you here, but you will never, ever, ever forget. And those of you who have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I want to talk really quick about the 4K UHD release from Severin. It's got this awesome slipcover. I'll show you both sides. And then on the inside, we've got the poster art here. And there are two discs. One is the UHD and one is the regular Blu-ray. The UHD has two commentary tracks. The first by Nathaniel Thompson, Troy Howarth, and Eugenio Ercolani. And the second with Callum Waddell and John Martin. These names might be familiar to you because they do a lot of these Euro horror. I opted for the Nathaniel Thompson and Troy Howarth commentary because those are two of my favorite writers. And I was not disappointed in the slightest. It's a great conversation and they cover a ton of material. It's just hilarious to listen to these three, just throw these titles around and you're like, I've never heard of that one. Never heard of that one either. Don't know. Okay, I know that one. So it's kind of fun to listen to them talking way above your head, even if you're a devout fan. So in addition to the two commentary tracks, there are a couple of interviews. There are two with Peter Bark as an older actor. The first being a 13-minute where he goes around and visits the famous Villa Parisi, which is where the film was shot. There's also a film festival Q&A that lasts about 9 minutes. There are interviews with actors Simone Matoli and Mariangelo Giordani, as well as producer Gabriele Crisanti. There's also about 10 minutes of deleted scenes, all of which make for a pretty tidy package. So that is Burial Ground, available now on UHD and Blu-ray from Severin Films. It's got a little bit of a gothic feel, got a little bit of a Fulci feel. You should definitely check it out. If you haven't seen it already, it's kind of essential Italian zombie viewing. Thanks so much for following along with Scare-A-Thon 2024. This is day 9. We're going to be doing one of our box set Thursdays tomorrow, so tune in and see what we talk about there. And again, this is benefiting the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project. Please make a donation today via the link in the description of this video. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great night.